You picked up your phone today, before you even opened your eyes, before the light hit your face, before you said a word to another human being, before you even decided to be awake. And here's the strange part. You did not decide to do that. Something else did. Most people hear that and think, addiction. They picture cigarettes and slot machines and the dopamine loop. They have read the articles. They have seen the documentaries. They know the tech companies designed these apps to be sticky. They have accepted that they are, on some level, being manipulated. But that framing is incomplete, and it lets you off the hook in a way that actually makes the problem harder to solve. Because your phone does not hijack your brain from the outside. It hijacks something that was already running. Something ancient. Something that existed millions of years before glass and circuit boards. Something that kept your ancestors alive. And once you understand what that thing is, the phone-checking habit starts to look completely different. In the 1950s, a psychologist named B.F. Skinner put pigeons in a box. He gave them a lever. When they pressed it, food pellets dropped out. At first, the pellets came every time. The pigeons pressed, they ate, they learned the pattern. Simple, predictable, not particularly compelling. Then Skinner changed the rules. Sometimes pressing the lever gave a pellet, sometimes it gave nothing. The delivery became random, and something unexpected happened. The pigeons did not press less. They pressed more, obsessively, compulsively, far more than when the reward was guaranteed. Skinner called this a variable ratio reinforcement schedule, and it turns out to be the most powerful behavior-shaping mechanism ever discovered. Not because it creates pleasure, but because it creates uncertainty, and uncertainty, it turns out, is exactly what your brain was designed to pursue. Think about what your nervous system is at its core. It is a prediction machine. Every moment of every day, your brain is generating predictions about the world, and then comparing those predictions to what actually happens. When reality matches the prediction, your brain marks that as safe, known, not worth paying much attention to. But when reality does not match the prediction, something fires. A signal shoots through your anterior cingulate cortex, a region that acts like a mismatch detector, flagging the gap between what you expected and what you got. That signal grabs your attention. It pulls your focus. It says, something here is unresolved. This is not a bug. This is the oldest feature your brain has. For hundreds of thousands of years, your ancestors lived in an environment where unresolved uncertainty was dangerous. A sound in the bush that you could not identify. A shift in the wind that might mean fire. A patch of berries that might be edible or might be poison. The brain that survived was not the brain that ignored these gaps. It was the brain that stayed riveted to them until they were resolved. The neuroscientist Wolfram Schultz spent years studying this in primates. He found that dopamine, the chemical your brain releases in response to reward, does not actually peak when you receive something good. It peaks in anticipation, in the moment between not knowing and finding out. And when that moment never arrives, when the outcome stays uncertain, the dopamine system does not shut off. It stays on, locked in, waiting. Your phone is a machine that keeps that moment alive indefinitely. Every time you open it, you do not know what you will find. Maybe a message that matters. Maybe nothing. Maybe someone responded to something you said. Maybe they did not. Maybe something happened in the world. Maybe nothing did. The outcome is always unknown until the moment you look. And so the pull to look never quite disappears. This is what researchers at Nottingham Trent University found when they studied smartphone use in 2015. The average person was not checking their phone because they felt a conscious desire to check it. They were checking it in response to a felt sense of incompleteness, a low-grade background tension that the phone had come to represent the resolution of. The phone did not create that tension. Your brain did. The phone just learned to attach itself to a mechanism that was already there. Now consider what happens to that mechanism when you grow up. A child reaches for something and discovers whether it is soft or sharp, warm or cold, safe or dangerous. They ask a question and wait for an answer. They throw a ball and watch to see where it lands. Every day is filled with small moments of uncertainty resolved by action. Reach, discover, learn. That loop is how human beings built a model of the world, and it is deeply satisfying when it works. There is a reason toddlers will repeat the same experiment 50 times. They are not bored. They are tuning a machine. They are calibrating the gap between prediction and outcome over and over until they understand. Your phone triggers that same machinery. Every notification you do not check is a small unresolved loop. Every conversation you left unread, every post you made that might have gotten a response, every news story that might have developed since this morning. Each one is a thread your brain has not pulled to its conclusion. And because there are dozens of them, all running simultaneously, the machine is never at rest. The psychologist Larry Rosen at California State University has studied this exhaustively. He found that the feeling people describe as the urge to check their phone is not craving in the way addiction researchers typically mean. It is closer to anxiety. Specifically, the anxiety of an incomplete cognitive loop. The brain registers an open file. It wants the file closed. The phone is how you close files now. And this is where it gets genuinely strange, because the loop was never designed to close this fast. In the ancestral environment your brain was built for, you might spend 3 days tracking an animal before you resolved whether you would eat. You might wait weeks before you knew whether the rains would come. The uncertainty was slow, the resolution was rare, and your brain hoarded both, because both were precious. Now you resolve micro-uncertainties every 47 seconds. That is the average time between phone checks in some studies, 47 seconds. Before the last loop has even faded, a new one opens. Your brain has adapted to expect resolution at this speed and has begun to treat anything slower as a malfunction. This is why waiting feels unbearable now in a way it did not 20 years ago. Why a 2-minute wait for a text response triggers a low-grade dread that a 2-week wait once did not. Your baseline for what counts as unresolved has shifted. Your brain recalibrated to a feedback speed that nothing in nature ever provided. And the effect compounds. Each time you reach for your phone in a moment of mild discomfort, of boredom, of a feeling you do not want to sit with, you teach your nervous system that discomfort is a signal to seek external resolution rather than internal rest. You are not becoming addicted to the phone. You are becoming unable to tolerate the sensation that comes before you reach for it. What you are losing is not attention. It is the ability to remain in uncertainty without collapsing toward a resolution. Researchers call this distress tolerance, the capacity to sit with an uncomfortable feeling, to not immediately act on it, to allow it to exist without being driven to close it. It is one of the most important psychological capacities a human being can have. And it is one of the first things that erodes when you outsource the management of your internal state to a device. The irony is profound. Your phone is a tool for connecting to other humans, for accessing information, for navigating the world. All of those things can reduce genuine uncertainty. But the habit of chronic checking has made you more uncertain, not less. Because now you are uncertain about how to feel without it. There is a moment, somewhere in the middle of the day, when you reach for your phone and you do not know why. There is nothing you were expecting. There is no notification you forgot. You just reached. Your hand moved before your mind did. And for a fraction of a second, before the screen lit up, you were in that ancient space. The moment between not knowing and finding out. Your pigeon pressed the lever, again. The technology is new. The circuit it plugs into is older than language. Older than fire. It is the same loop that once drove your ancestors to follow a sound into the dark, to taste the unknown berry, to stay awake a little longer scanning the horizon. That loop kept them alive. It built you. It is not going away, but now you know what it is, and the moment you know what something is, it no longer has you quite as completely. The next time your hand moves before your mind does, you might notice it. You might sit with it for one more second. You might let the file stay open, not because that is easy, but because somewhere deep in your nervous system, you already know how to tolerate not knowing. You did it for 1,000,000 years before you had a screen to reach for.